Hello everyone, I'm Grandmaster Erwin and together with International Master Robert Ritz, my good friend, in this video we'll be having a look at Game 1 of the World Championship match in Sochi between Vishwanathan and the reigning World Champion Magnus Carlsen. Perhaps you have seen already our preview video where we had a look at the match in Chennai, which as we all know went to Magnus Carlsen rather convincingly. Let's see what happened in Game 1. Robbie, are you there?
Hi Erwin, nice to be here again with you for Game 1. And
good to see you.
Very excited. Fishy is white in Game 1.
So drew white in the first game. Exactly, opened d4. That's exactly what we predicted, isn't it?
Yeah, he should play like that.
He should have placed money on this. Yeah, knight f6. But I didn't expect this move, g6, and especially the Grunfeld. If I recall, Kasparov mentioning once that the Grunfeld is not a very suitable opening for a World Championship match because there's so much scope to cover. There's so many forcing lines which you absolutely have to know from start to finish. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a tricky decision, but I think it will be used only for one game. I'm pretty sure Magnus will not play the entire match, the Grunfeld. He will switch to more solid lines, maybe some Queen's Gambit declined or more positional natured positions.
Yeah, that's also what he did in Chennai, wasn't it? He just jumped also from one to the other thing. Exactly.
Just for one game, it's very interesting. So let's see which line.
He replied very quickly with this line, which he had some experience with, I think, with John Ludwig Hammer, some 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, and also some famous game against Svidler. He won him. He beat him in.
All right, yeah. I think you're right there. I don't recall the exact details, but okay, at least we know that he had some experience.
Knight c6 is not the most common move. c5 is more fashionable and played by in the aforementioned games.
Yeah, by I think his game with Hammer went something like this. He tried to quickly open the H file and try to make it, and he did actually in the game. And Hammer is the second of Carlsen, as we know, so that gives an interesting dynamic to the game. And Knight c6 has been played by Nepomniachtchi before.
Interesting details about the background of this particular line and the seconds which may be involved in.
Yeah, of Nepomniachtchi it's also mentioned that he has been working with Carlsen from time to time. Exactly. Perhaps also during this match. Who knows? Maybe we will hear. Maybe we will never know actually.
Yeah.
Knight f3. Vichy played very fast, despite Knight c6 being a rather rare move. d5, Bishop takes f3. Bishop takes e7. Another option is to simply take back. But then after knight e5, I think there's no longer the option of long castle, which Vichy played in the game, because now I suppose we can take. Can we?
Yeah, probably can grab the pawn, and go back. Yeah.
Actually, that loses a piece.
It loses a piece.
It loses a piece.
Oh, it did happen. No problem. Yeah, but
then in that case, maybe c6 like in the game.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Still, it's yeah. Well, we will see the differences because bishop takes g7. I like this exchange of the strong bishop on g7 because now after knight e5 we always have this option of queen c3 pinning the knight.
Sure, yeah.
Long castle is of course a very nice trick.
And now black can take the pawn either on f3 because of queen c3.
Yeah.
Double attack. So
yeah, that's clear.
That's important to point out. And Carlsen spent a lot of time here, right?
I think like half an hour or something. I think he was clearly taken aback by long castle. It was clearly as a surprise. But c6 I think is the right move here.
Yeah, a very sensible move to undermine the pawn center. Very typical in this opening.
Yeah, it's preparing to open up some files against. He needs to open up the position, I suppose, before White can really. Try his own things with h4, h5 against the.
Actually, it's a very double-edged position. It looks it's quiet at the moment, but the thing is that from a positional point of view, Black is doing perfectly fine. If he managed to trade off some pieces, the pawn structure on the king side is quite vulnerable.
Yeah.
But White will try to play for an attack, try to exert some pressure in the center with the h pawn or. Play f4 and use his space advantage. So it's a very both sides have their own trumps.
Very dynamic, isn't it?
Very dynamic choice. I like it very much.
Yeah, I was quite impressed by Vichy's opening play, I must say. It's also how he continued was very instructive. He played queen c3, f6. He has to unpin, of course, and bishop h3, which I also liked a lot. With the idea that c takes d5, he played simply e takes d5.
Very nice move. And now you see the point of the bishop on h3 is controlling the c8 square. It will go to e6 probably, covering some light squares, and later on the h pawn may get involved with h4, h5.
Yeah, opening up the position of the king. And of course, in that case, the g file might also come in handy. I mean, white really has a very, I would say, primitive plan of attacking the black's position here. And the knight is very nice, but for the moment,
not too much.
Yeah, it's not really having too much of an impact on the position. Of course, if all the heavy pieces would come off, queens, rooks, black would perhaps even be winning. But with those pieces still on, and especially with black having trouble getting his pieces in because he lacks this beautiful c8 square, which is controlled by the bishop, for white it's much easier to exert pressure. So I think that surely Vichy was very happy at this point.
Definitely, yeah. How did he... Magnus played knight f7 here.
Yeah, knight f7, which I think is the right direction. And Vichy played f4.
Yeah, not sure about that move, yeah? Maybe it was not really needed to...
Yeah, I really liked the move king b1. I already made a few arrows, as you can see. King b1 makes perfect use of the fact that the bishop controls c8. So white is preparing rook c1 and an invasion on the 7th rank already for the future. He gets his king out as well, which is a little bit in the way on c1. And it's the question is whether white really needs this move f4.
Exactly, and I think in the game... Magnus played very nicely here. I mean,
yeah, this was really impressive. First, he drew the queen to d4. He brought his rook to d8. Anand put his bishop on e6, and now queen b6, another tempo. Here it would have been interesting to exchange queens, but I can imagine that Vichy, something like this, was very interesting to bring the rook out to c7. But I can imagine that Vichy wanted to keep the queens, to keep this idea of an attack alive. But now, rook d6. Rook e1, and here is a plan I would never have come up with, knight d8.
Yeah, this is an incredible move. Yeah, your knight was very nicely placed in the middle of the board, at least from an optical point of view. I mean, it goes back to d8 just to undermine the bishop, and yeah, actually black seems to be doing reasonably fine here.
Yeah, because the problem is also that if you remove the bishop, then in the future it will not be able to come back. Black is going to close that bishop down. And
well, but for the moment there's this problem with the e-pawn, yeah?
So I suppose that we start with a little check.
Yeah, sure.
Start with a little check, and after king b1, maybe we can play something like f5.
And then your bishop is out of play.
Yeah, and then slowly, I suppose he will try to get the knight back. Of course, this is still some work needs to be done, but at least here the bishop is finally shut out of black's position.
Yeah, and black has some squares to maneuver around with the rooks and queen, d7, c8 squares. They are available.
So
interesting.
He tried to keep his bishop alive with f5, but I mean to at least keep some pressure alive. Of course, the bishop got exchanged. Queen c7, and here, okay, the computer likes, for example, to play in this fashion. But I can perfectly understand that you don't really want to allow such a strong pawn center there. And maybe after, let's say, h4. What do you think?
I think actually it should be fine for black, but it's very tricky because white has easier play here. I mean, he has some chances to play against the black king. The queen from d6 can hardly move because if the queen moves away at some point, then white gets in the move d6 and creates the pass pawn. So it's a very tricky position. But black may be doing fine here. But yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. Actually, I can understand that Magnus refrained from playing.
Yeah, me too. Definitely. And now we enter, I think, a part in the game where we get this typical position where Magnus is I think he is the best player in the world, but here he is, I think, the best player in the world by a long margin in this type of play, which we're going to see now. It's this kind of small technical maneuvering game where he really excels, I think. Here, Vichy, he played d6. It was a bit hasty, no?
Yeah, You know, sometimes the threat is stronger than the execution, yeah? And d6 is pulled, which is in the air. There are some other options to play against the black king. Maybe to take on g6 here, I think.
Yeah.
And follow up with the move.
Look at that for a second. And h4, right?
Yeah, I think ideas like that. And the problem is that black's pieces, that everything seems to be protected, but on the other hand, you have to. Your pawn on e7 is a source of problems for black. You need to.
Black cannot really do too much because he's quite pinned down as well, right?
Yeah. That's why I think d6 is a little bit of panic actually, and it reminds me of the first match where Anand also tried to force matters.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple of games.
Yeah.
And I think he shouldn't have done it. He should have kept the pressure and try to play more aggressively himself.
Yeah, because here, to my mind, he doesn't even look like he's worse because he has definitely ideas of his own trying to expose the king. And
sure.
d5 is not really weak because e7 is always hanging.
Yeah, and if it's come under threat, then you can play d6 anyway, or there are other moves as well.
Right. Okay, so this reminds us a little bit of Chennai, doesn't it? Yeah.
He played d6. He takes d6.
Queen d4. Of course, he calculated that he wins back the pawn immediately.
Yeah, but on the other hand, it's a very tricky position actually. I think black's king is safer than white's king actually. It's not so obvious yet, but also the pawn structure. Yeah, the pawns on f2 and h2, they can become targets for the major pieces. So let's see. Did Carlsen manage to pull anything?
It's quite difficult for us to comment, I think, on the next moment. I mean, Carlsen makes this. Of course, the game should be a draw. I think in general, it should be rather equalish. But if someone is playing, it's Magnus, and this is what he does so well. Sometimes I don't even understand how he does it. So he just keeps the game going and going and going. So now Queen a5, obviously Rook d7 would run into a small check. So he prevents any further simplifications. f4, not sure about this move because it can become a target as well. Queen h5, Queen d2. This is what I mean. It's not really clear but
he's just making moves, yeah.
Rook d5, Queen c4, Rook d7, Queen c6. Very nice because Vishy would probably like to exchange, but actually, when you do, I mean, you allow.
Now the weakness on f4 becomes apparent. It's
definitely not equal this position. So he finally decided to refrain from exchanging rooks. Rook e7, Queen c1, and you see slowly but surely a5, very important. So he starts to fix the structure here. And like we said before, it's not only about those pawns here, but also the king is a little bit weak. It's a little bit weaker than black's king.
Yeah, especially after bringing the a pawn into play.
Queen f1. Okay, there is some active option, Queen c8.
Yeah, Queen f1 is a little bit passive, yes, sticking to your pawn on f4. Queen c8 was interesting idea. The point is that after Queen takes f4, White goes Rook to d8 and try to generate counterplay itself. I think it's fair.
If we run,
yeah, there's Rook h8 here actually.
King g5.
And yeah, now h4.
That's a very elegant, and because of the queen covers all the squares. Yeah.
Wonderful cooperation.
Yeah, that's really. And if I go here, this is very okay. It becomes very sharp. Nobody knows what's going on here. Check, because now we have we've made a nice square on f4.
Wow, super king.
Okay, yeah. This is but this is of course crazy stuff, and we cannot really blame them for going or not going for this. I mean, it's
yeah, but I don't like this passive move, queen to f1.
Yeah, at the same time we were criticizing him before for playing too d6 was too
yeah, but he had clear plans of improving his own position.
Yes.
His pieces are
here it was needed, yeah. I agree, definitely.
Queen f1,
a4, so he's really fixing him there. Rook d1, Queen c2. Yeah, and this is the game is actually ending in just a few moves from now, but this was probably the biggest moment in the game, eh?
I think so, yeah. I think so. Because he played Rook e2, yeah, but he had another option, I think.
He had this amazing move, Rook e3. I say amazing because to me it didn't come very naturally, because you think, well, I'm allowing a check and the pawn to be taken.
Yeah, but the king is pretty safe on h6. There's no check on h3. And the point is that after taking on b7, black follows up with the move rook to b3.
Which we have to take, otherwise it's mate on b2.
And now you take with the a pawn. Very, very nice move, king a1. The king is stuck in the corner. And although white has a protected passed pawn, it cannot really be mobilized, because if you just advance the a pawn, there are always ideas for the black queen to infiltrate along the a file.
Right, yeah, this king is really weak, isn't it?
And the problem also is that white cannot really activate the queen either, yeah? I mean...
the queen is stuck on the first rank, eh?
Yeah, so it's very nice, and black can just capture the pawn on h2.
Yes.
And in fact, I think black has just a majority on the king side, can try to create a passed pawn. And as I said, white cannot really mobilize his...
Can this be just winning for black?
It can just be winning, I think, yeah.
Because he can just bring his pawn forward slowly, I suppose.
I think so, yeah. And it's not clear what white is going to do. He cannot use the king.
There's absolutely no counterplay. You might be completely right there, yeah. So this was a huge chance then. Huge chance.
Yeah.
So let's see what is the difference with the game. Rook e2, rook b4 was played. This is of course a big difference. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because now he covered b2 very nicely. He's attacking b7. Actually, you have the b5, queen h1, also very nice, preparing some checks against the king. Rook e7, queen d5, centralizing. Rook e1, and actually now he
it's both sides really
he realized that at this point there's nothing to gain. Well, interesting, yeah.
Exciting game. Exciting
start of the match.
I think both players had some chances in this game, and I liked Fishy's opening quite well.
We like his openings, but we didn't like his play maybe very much afterwards, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. And actually I was a bit surprised that Magnus missed that chance of playing rook e3. I think that would have given him some more chances.
It would have been a real Chennai type of endgame loss, otherwise, I would say, yeah?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I think that must give Vishy a boost, that actually he got into this similar awful position, but he managed to hold on this time.
He managed to overcome his previous problems, yes?
Right. Okay, well, thank you a lot, Robbie. We will see each other more often this next few weeks, I think. Okay, thanks, Robbie. Bye.
Okay, cheers.
And thanks everyone for watching, of course. And keep an eye on this video series, because we're going to have a look at all of the games. Bye. Thank you.